Ciao! Today another episode on the 75. So I noticed there is a lots of video in Italian but none in English, so I'm trying to, well, we'll make one to make some help for somebody which never know how it looks like underneath. And in that today we're going to do the prop shaft. I'm going to change the donuts on it. Unfortunately they start to split, and we're going to change all three of them, and also the middle mount, which is that one. It's splitted quite badly, so we're going to replace them all. Okay, that's the one in the bell housing behind on the flywheel. Middle one, that's the mount. That's the donut in the back, and you got the last one, which is on the gearbox. And for what the people would know about that, that's actually have a flywheel, actually a second flywheel and a clutch, because the clutch is in the back, because we have a transaxle Dedion system. The gearbox is a ZF gearbox. In that case, because this is a 75 twin spark, it does have fitted from factory with an LSD, like the V6 Milano 2.5 and also the 3-litre V6. All three of them had from standard LSD definite. Right, so to dismantle this little boy, you have to remove the full exhaust system from the manifolds on the twin spark. So here we got nuts and bolt 30mm to be removed. A middle mount, or again 30mm nuts and bolt. Couple of mounts, and of course there is an exhaust box in the back which has to come out, and it's already off because I had an issue with the gearbox, so I solved that. It was an issue with the shifter lever. So I told the guy, listen, your donuts are about to blow up, and you don't really want like this fella coming into your car, because this does the same speed of the crank. So if you're doing 7,000 RPM, it will do 7,000 RPM just next to you. So you have to make sure and take care of the fact that, of course, due by age, they start to split, and every so often it's really recommended to keep an eye on it, because that could be a disaster. Will come into the car and will destroy your floor pan, and if you're not injured as well. Okay, so that's for the exhaust, as I said earlier on. So remove the back box, remove the front to rear exhaust at the manifold to the back. After that, you need to slack those 3 bolts on each end, which are 17mm. Watch, because they're special, 10x1. That's all the Alphas. A very fine thread on it. What you would do, the reason why you do that, you put an axle stand or a jack or something in the back of the transaxle, and the transaxle will tip at the front like that. So that means it will help you to remove the prop shaft, otherwise there is no way to come off. So you slack this, you take that mount off. There is which is all 30mm. So again 30mm for the middle mount, and those donuts are 17mm in that case. And I'll show you a tip how to don't struggle to remove them. So I'll come back soon and I'll show you how to do. Okay. So a tool which I made to help myself for removing this, if you're using again, actually, because of course if you do the clutch, it's the same procedure. You have to remove this, and taking a prop shaft anyway. So get a Jubilee clip and put it round as a band, because the brand new one comes with a band. So what happens, the coupling will spread and you will struggle to get the bolts right through. So what you would do in that case I have two hose clamps or jubilee clip, whatever you want to call it. In that case, I didn't have a big one, so I put two together 40-60 hose clamps, and they do the job perfectly. So you just go around it and just squish it together and keep it tight, so basically it will be much easier to go in and out. In that case, for dismantling, you don't need a pry bar or anything, because the bolts will come off no problem. And again, if you just do a clutch or something on the transactor itself, it's handy to have to make something like that, because the band you buy, well, you're gonna get on the new one, it's one use only, so all of a sudden you cut it, you need to throw away. Instead, in that case, you just keep it on the side, you work on it, use it, and keep again on the side, and that's it. Well, not very often you will be in there, but anytime, well, it could be handy, could become handy. So I'll start with this dismantling. I'll start to take the exhaust off, and I'll come back when the exhaust is removed, and I'll show you the prop shaft, the way it looks without the exhaust attached to it. Okay? Right, so exhaust is off. That's the way you will put your clamp around your coupling or donut. So just keep it tight. It will help you a lot just to shove the bolts off and everything. So next step, I actually say to you to remove nuts and bolts. I had the gun, so it was much easier to remove the 3 bolts when they came together with the bracket. That's the exhaust. Full exhaust down. Right, so next step is removing that bar, which again 30mm bolts inside here. After that, you will slack those 2 bolts to start the engine mount, and you will put an axle stand or jack under the sump and basically move the engine backwards, so you have access to get those nuts up there off in there. So of course you have to remove those nuts, because on the other side you can't really remove them because it's the other way around. So these nuts are actually studs. They're actually on the top of the studs, which are the flywheel itself, the engine flywheel. Bear in mind, as I said earlier, so you got 2 flywheel, another one is in that bell housing here for the clutch. So take that off. Remove the 6 bolts here on the side of this big bar. So, but first of all, get in the front, slack the front end first. So you need I will use a transmission jack, because I've got a ramp on the deck, will be a bit of a straddling, but you can use a jack and an axle stand. So that's the way it looks like with no exhaust. As I said, nuts and bolts. Last time I had it off, I upgraded them and I put stainless steel nuts and bolt. So make your life easier, because they get seized due to age and they're quite a nightmare. But okay, we'll come back again when I have that off, and I'll show you how to do it. So as I said, you select those 2 nuts of the back engine mount for the engine, jack it up the front end, and the back will drop, so you're going to have more access, some access to get into the, from this side right through with an extension and a gun. You can do old fashioned by hand, but good luck. Much easier nowadays with a gun. So that's the coupling holder which I made, and I'm going to just squash the coupling so to keep it in place. I forgot about that. You need to take the shifter lever as well off. 2 11mm, so an M7 bolt. Take it off, so it's going to be on the side of it. It's not a big deal, and pretty much good to go almost. It doesn't take long. Of course, if you've ever done one before, Okay, next step, when we'll have it on the ground, I'll show you the most important bits is to mark what you dismantle. So make sure you're going to put it bang on where it should, because otherwise you'll go out of balance. Because as you see, that's like a tire. You got weight attached to it to balance it for vibration. So you have to make sure they're going to be right in the same spot where it was. There's another two there. Another two there. Balance weight. So you have to make sure you lined up everything together when you have that apart. I'll come back to you shortly. Right, all ready to come off. That's the setup in the back. You just lift up the back end and the front end dropped. You have to use a bit of a pry bar or something just to get the coupling off of the sender of the prop shaft, well, of the flywheel itself. So that's free. Needle mount and that at the front with a coupling holder. So see what actually different makes that you put like something in the back of it and moves. See how easy it moves? If you don't have anything holding it together, you need a massive pry bar to move it. Eventually it will come off, but it'll be a struggle. So if you can manage to put that thing, which is not easy anyway because the space is tight, so you put that together like that and it comes off, no problem. Okay, so that's the prop out of the car. As I told you earlier on, I made some marks. As to make sure you put the prop shaft, well, here it doesn't really matter, but always put them the way they were came from. That's your flywheel. Your engine flywheel, same story. I marked it on this spot. That's on that starts there. That starts with some white marks, and pretty much that's it. So that's how you remove it. So now on the prop itself. So what we're going to do, gonna mark, for example, here and here a straight line to keep it at the same spot. The same story, because I'm going to change this mount. So after you take that middle donuts off, so the prop shaft come in two pieces. There is a nut just right under, and this coupling comes off. It's got teeth like a drive shaft basically. So you need to pop it out and the bearing will come off, because this housing is come together with the bearing. That's the front one. So the way I marked it, of course, you're going to replace the donut. I just made a straight line, so get a mark up here. You really don't need to do the front, but I'll always do it. I never had any issue like that, so that's what it is, and that's the rear end. Of course the front one's a bit of a struggle, that's why the holder I made is a bit squint. It will be ideal though to find one at the front with one, not a double Jubilee clip together, because the space is tight, so you will struggle a bit to remove it, but that's what I had. Didn't have any bigger, and that's it. So it should be delivered today. So what I'll do, I'll strip it down, prepare it, maybe paint a bit ever so slightly the prop shaft just to make it nicer. And it's been purchased by EB Spares. It's a UK company which is specialised in Alfa Romeo, especially V6 stuff, button 75 and all that kind of sort of stuff, so they have quite a bit. The little mistake I made, the rear daddy on, so the bolts are 10 by 125, sorry for that. 10 by 125, they're too long and too short, one short on each end, so that's the setup pretty much. That's what you have on each side. So the short one at the front and the long one in the middle. And okay, I'll come back to you shortly on the dismantle process, and we were going to put it back together as well. So this is the front one, and we have a circlip on the top, a spacer and a spring which comes off, and after that, that should come out and let the top coupling slide out without any problem. So we are back. We prepare the prop shaft. I give a sunblast of paint so it looks like new, although it's 32 years old. This stuff is all the prop shaft coupling or donuts, supplied by EB Spares. Thanks a lot, guys. Fast shipping, next day delivery. They're great for parts and for 75 V6s and twin spark and all the rest of it. So that's all the old stuff. I'm struggling with this. I actually do have one in stock, although it's a replica. This is a centering bush for the back end of the prop shaft, which goes on the flywheel side. They do have a replica made. It's not the same, but at least does the job. This came in 5 pieces, so, and it's not available anymore from Alfa Romeo, of course, as usual. Little advice: when you take the nuts of the joint on the middle shaft, sorry, the front shaft, of course, to get access to the front bearing, to the middle bearing, there's those nuts are 32mm. I would suggest you to get a socket. You can buy it in Alford's Advanced. I don't know if there's a part number of it. Anyway, it's a 30. The maximum diameter it must be, and not exceeding that, because you got not enough room for it. So, as a perfect fit, we have almost 40mm, and that's what you got. You don't have more than that, so you can use an impact socket. Unfortunately, it must be like this, because it fits just in there. Alright. Okay, so for the dismantling at the front, you do have this rubber bush which you have to pop out. This is cracked. I will try to glue it because of, again, it's not available. There's a crack there. I'll try to glue it, put it back in. A little bit of glue right in the rubber. It's a bit split. It's not completely split, but it's about. I had to destroy the outer bit of the, meaning that the casing of the bearing, but it was completely jammed on, and I had to destroy the bearing as well. So I cutted it, and I use a bearing puller on the top of the prop to have it off, and that's it. So I'll just put it back together, and I'll come back to you and actually fully assemble it. Okay. Right. Another thing. If you do that on the deck, just a tube to avoid to destroy the centering bush at the front. So actually, that goes. It's an inch tube. That one. It will go right. Will help you to do for that. So here we're going to install the middle mount for the prop shaft. So what you have to do, press in the bearing. So push it that way into the mount itself, and the mount goes that way, so with the face of the opening towards the rear end of the car. So this part, which is where actually the bearing stops, goes towards the end the engine. The parts, of course, have been supplied by EB Spares. Guys are great. Next day delivery. They have in stock, very professional. Honestly, if you have need parts for any Alphas, they actually have a big range of parts. So use them because they are sound. Okay, very, very good. So you put them like that. You get a socket which goes right in the middle of the bearing. A tap with a hammer. That's it. In. Job done. So like so, I've got a small Teflon, like a kind of socket you can tell, just to give it a tap. So that's it, that's fully in. So bang on where it should be. Bearing nice and smooth. Now we're going to torque the nut on top of it. As me personal opinion, I always put them the way they were, so you can't go wrong, because the one which goes at the bottom is clean on both ends. So put it on. Gonna get the gun, torque it, and that's it. Job done. So that's the gun. I use that adapter. I don't really like to put a non-impact socket on a gun because you shouldn't be using that, but sometimes you have to. There is no compromise, you have to compromise. Okay, that's done. Done. We've got the nuts at the top of it to go. That's it. That's it. That's done. Now, you need to put, of course, the needle on it. The middle one is to be done, the one without anything in the middle, and it's also the cheapest one. So, like so. Remember, you got the band, so we'll go almost no problem. Just a small tappy tappy, or as we say in Scotland, a wee tappy tappy. We'll go all the way down, or all the way down in Scottish. Okay, so that's done. Okay. So come back to you shortly to do the rest of the prop. So you have a sender bush, which is the same like with the one in the back, which is destroyed. We were waiting for it, and it's going to be here tomorrow. So that has to slide on the top of that. Always use a bit of universal tool. So see it spread. That goes in. So you put some CV joint grease on that, so you won't destroy any rubber or anything. Because I did remove this. It's got a boot on top of it, which I took it off, clean it up inside, and we're going to put some fresh grease in it, because basically that's what it does. Does this. Goes into the hole. That's what it does all the time. So it's very important you have these sandering bush in good nick, otherwise yeah, it's a problem. So okay, so what I'll do, I'll put the coupling on, and I'll come back to you after I tighten it. Okay, so back to the sender part of it. So the coupling is on. I replaced this boot, put a new one, I put some nasty CV joint grease. I really don't like it. It's black. It's the worst job ever you can do on a car, honestly. CV joints, and that's when you got that grease is involved. I bloody hate it, but that's what it is. So the rear end is almost complete. Now we're going to put the front one, which is that one. That one is the front coupling. Okay. The front part of it towards the flywheel side is that one. So it's got a cone in the back. That goes that way. So that's the prop fully assembled, a part of the back end, because we have a issue with the rear centering bush. So we got one coming, should be delivered tomorrow, and it's coming from EB Spares. It's a British company, they're quite good. Honestly, I used them a few times already since I opened the garage. They're spot on, genuine guys, parts with prices as reasonable, and next day delivery, so they're bang on. A few things I just want to mention. So that's the rubber bush which I was telling you. Mine was broken a bit. So if you want to change that one, you have to remove it, because otherwise it won't come off. Another thing on a device, when you put the middle part in, there's that center bush. You have to be careful to make it sure it's going to be straight, because otherwise you will destroy it. So it has to be on the bowl, on the front prop shaft, and has to slide precise straight into the back of the rear part of it, otherwise it won't go. Okay, so that's the part we are waiting for. So that centering bush which goes over the back end of the prop, that's why the rear things is not ready yet. So waiting for the things coming. Pretty much that's it. So 3 coupling, middle bearing done. Done a quick paint as well. It's been rust treated, and it's ready to go. So coming back shortly to finish it off and start it up, and we'll see how it goes. All back together. So prop shaft all back in. That's the way it looks when it's actually all together. That's all the parts we replaced. So the 3 coupling or donuts, the middle engine, the middle prop shaft mount, and the bearing as well. We did struggle a bit with the bits which unfortunately was destroyed, and this is a centering bush which I was seeing earlier on. I find it destroyed into 5 pieces. So luckily enough, there's a company called EB Spares. Those guys are great, are sound. Next day delivery, I managed to get this, which is a replica of the centering bush. So they supply you a ball which you have to swap on the top of your prop. So you pull that out and you put that one in, and you have to get this Teflon bush, which is a bit of a nightmare, I have to say, because basically this thing goes into the back, into the rear coupling in that hole, and of course the ball has to go in. So as they was mentioned to me, unfortunately the Teflon does change the characteristic because of the if it's too hot, if it's too cold, expand, retract. So it was a bit of a challenge to get it in, but eventually I managed to do it. Another things bear in mind, so the brand new one will come without a boot, so you need to source one to put on the top and use the clip which comes together, because anyway it needs some lubrication in here into that centering bush anyway. So okay, so we're going to put the exhaust back on, all back together, and we're going for a test drive. So all back together, back in, prop shaft in the right position. This is how much gap you should have between the prop shaft itself and the shifter turret. If it's not like that, it's something wrong. You may put this mount the other way around, because we'll bring the prop shaft that way, so we'll touch into the housing itself. And yeah, that's it. That's our 75 prop shaft done. So unusual, we do have still a genuine back box on this car. So just for a notice, that's the part number of it. Amazing that 116 is still an Alfetta part number. Okay, so we do have that mess here with the mount. Honestly with you, I cannot get the right one. So if somebody knows how it will look like, it seems like we have a bracket on two rings which should go up on the top, but I've got no idea. Actually, that's the first twin spark I'm touching. I never touched one before. Well, plenty of 1.8, 1.6 in Italy, or 2 litre carburetor, although 2 litre carburetor is very rare. But twin spark, so those ones, twin spark, and also V6 2.5 Milano and V6 3 litre. Together, of course, with the SZ, they do have LSD in it. So those gearbox originally, they should be fitted with an LSD from factory standard, and that's it. Okay, I hope to see you soon with the next video of the next restoration project we're gonna have. Ciao ciao.